الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر
لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم، وجاعل النور من الظلم، ومخرج الصبر من الألم، فملقي التوبة على الندم، فنشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم، ونصلي على رسوله الأكرم ذي الشرف الأشم والنور الأتم والكتاب المحكم وكمال النبيين والخاتم سيد ولد آدم، الذي بشر به عيسى بن مريم ودعا لبعثته إبراهيم عليه السلام حين كان يرفع قواعد بيت الله المحرم، فصلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أتباعه خير الأمم الذين بارك الله بهم كافة الناس العرب منهم والعجم. فالحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. والحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. والحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. فصلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها، وإن كل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كافها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. واللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله، واللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. It's an honor to be here today, and inshallah over the next a little over 23 minutes, I'm going to try to share some reflections from the opening of Surah Maryam. So for after the khutbah is done, after you get some time, I'd like you to spend some time reading the opening, the first few ayat, maybe the first page of Surah Maryam on your own, and do some reading and study on your own as well. This surah, the opening, is about a time, a very important time in history. So I want to first tell you about that time. The children of Israel were chosen by Allah to be an example for all other nations before humanity. And they had had many, many prophets, one after the other. And the Quran describes that they disgraced those prophets. In fact, they even killed many of those prophets. يَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. They were killing prophets without justification. So it's not just that they were not listening to them, they were even assassinating prophets of Allah, time and time again, alayhimus salatu wassalam. But this was almost the end of the line for them. Allah had given them many, many opportunities, and now we're getting close to the end. And by that time, they had reached a new level of corruption within them. So they had different layers of corruption, but the kind of corruption they reached by this time that is going to be described in the beginning of Surah Maryam is the height of their corruption. And how do we know that? Well, one of the ways you can think about that is this is right around the time Isa alayhi salam is born. So the last prophet that is going to speak to them directly is coming. This is their last shot. This is their last chance to get their act together. And if you study Jesus, even outside of the Quran, if you study what Jesus is saying to the Israelites in their own literature, in Christian literature, you'll find that he has no kind words for the Israelites. And he's extremely offensive at the level of corruption that they've reached. In fact, it's no surprise then that they orchestrated the attempt to get him executed, right? Because it was too much of a problem for them, and he was exposing their corruption too much. Now, he hasn't been born yet. The opening of the surah, he hasn't been born yet. It opens with actually his mother's uncle. It opens with Zakaria alayhi salam. And this khutbah is really about Zakaria alayhi salam, but I want you to know what Zakaria himself went through alayhi salam. He's Allah's prophet. He knows, even though he's a prophet to Bani Israel, he knows that they have killed many prophets before him. So the first question is, why didn't they kill him? Well, there's two things that happen. Either they killed prophets, or they just stop listening to them and ignore them and make them irrelevant. And now, whether you kill them or not, nobody's listening to you anyway. So it's as if Zakaria alayhi salam, who's doing his responsibility as the imam, as the leader of that community, as the prophet of the time, has been giving them da'wah and trying to make correction with these people, but they have basically rendered him irrelevant. And he knows even the people that are close to him, even they suffer from deep corruption. And he's been asking Allah all this time for some kind of support, some kind of help. Because whenever he gets some kind of help, he sees that they have other influences and he's not able to give them tarbiyah properly. So his dua to Allah was, maybe the only way I can really have someone to help me is if they were born in my own family, my own child. I will be in charge of their upbringing myself. I'll make sure that they're brought up the right way. And then they can take responsibility because I'm getting older and older. So his entire life he's making dua for someone to support him. And now he's so old that he can see that death is any moment now. He's already got one foot in the grave. And it's at that time that Allah records this conversation that he had with Allah in the opening of Surah Maryam. It opens with Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, the huruf muqatta'at. And you and I know, we don't know what that means. But why put that there? One of the reasons you can think about putting that there is Allah is reminding us that He knows and we don't know. And He has wisdom we can never possess. He knows, He understands things that we can never understand. And when He plans the world the way He plans it, we see things happening in the world, we don't understand it. But the one who created this world and has the entire plan, He has knowledge and He has access that we can never have. Right? And when you see something in front of your eyes and you see it as a problem, like Zakaria alayhi salam, these were the Muslims of that time. They're not kuffar, they're the Muslims of that time. So he sees the Muslims of that time so corrupt, so lost, and he, even being a prophet of Allah, can't do anything about it. He seems to be helpless his entire life to be able to help these people, to do any kind of reform among them. And now he's reached an old age and he doesn't see anybody who's going to take over. And he's going to be gone, and what's going to happen to these people? The last voice that was there to speak the truth to them is about to die. And in that moment, he turns to Allah, and Allah describes, the opening is so remarkable, ذِكْرُ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّكَ عَبْدَهُ زَكَرِيَّا. This is a reminder and a mention of the rahmah, the loving care that your Rabb had towards His slave Zakaria. And that's confusing. Allah is saying in the beginning, Allah wants to remind you and me and His Prophet ﷺ that Allah was extra merciful and extra loving and caring to His servant Zakaria. But if you study the history, what do you think nowadays? What's our concept? If Allah is merciful to you, you make dua, Allah answers your dua. That means Allah is merciful to you. And if you're making dua and Allah didn't answer your dua, that means Allah is not merciful to you. It's our simple formula, because I say often we've equated dua to Allah with Amazon delivery. So if it doesn't come, then clearly maybe my payment didn't go through, it wasn't accepted, maybe there was something wrong, Allah is not happy, that's why He didn't send it. He didn't give me the answer to my prayer. Allah begins by saying Allah wants us to remember until Judgment Day in His final revelation that Allah had a special rahmah for His slave Zakaria. The slave of Allah who was asking Allah the same dua over and over again for years and years, and in all of those years, he never got that dua answered. He never got that dua answered. So what the first lesson to learn here is your dua and my dua not being answered according to our timetable has nothing to do with the rahmah of Allah. It has nothing to do with the rahmah of Allah. And Allah wanted us to remember the rahmah He had for Zakaria forever. Now look at the frustration of Zakaria alayhi salam. Zakaria alayhi salam is among Muslims, and the vast majority of them are in deep corruption. He doesn't have any support system. Who's he going to you can complain about the kuffar to the believers. Who are you going to complain to about the believers themselves? Where are you going to go? Right? So he's in that state. And Allah says, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. When he called on his Rabb with a secret, silent call, he made sure nobody hears this dua. This is incredible. Now billions of people know this dua. Allah put it in the Quran. Now everybody knows it. But He made sure that His dua would be a secret. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. Now what's amazing about that is one of the rahmah that Allah has given Zakaria alayhi salam. To this day, every time somebody's reciting the Quran and they recite Surah Maryam, who's getting the ajr? Who's getting the reward? And that dua he made in secret. No human being recorded it. No historian knew about it. No, it's not in the Bible. It's not recorded in their books because it was a secret dua. He didn't tell anybody. And he only told Allah. This is a conversation between him and Allah. And Allah knows. Only Allah knows this dua. And Allah decided to take that secret between him and his servant Zakaria and publish it in the Quran for us to know until Judgment Day. And every time we recite this dua, his maqam goes up. This is raf'u dhikr. This is Allah elevated him. So what does that mean? Maybe all those years, his pain, and in that moment of his death, when he was making this dua, his pain, in that time, he didn't even know that was the best moment of his life. Because that moment of his life was so beautiful, Allah put it in the Quran. It's so powerful, that moment. How would you know, and how will I know, what is the best moment of our life? Because people, when you ask, what's the greatest accomplishment of your life? You think of, well, I met the president, or I won this championship, or the day my business took off, or the day this happened, or that happened. Major events in your life, right? And what people do with major events is they take a picture of them. They frame them in their house. They put them as the background on their phone, the wallpaper on their phone. This is the major event of my life. They wear it like a medal on themselves. And here you have, this man has this moment in his life, he wouldn't even know at the time. He wouldn't even know that was the most precious moment of his entire existence, even as a prophet. What is Allah teaching us through that? Allah is teaching us that my relationship with Allah, your relationship with Allah, it's nobody else's business. And we don't know which of our deeds are the most value to Allah, and maybe there's even an ishara, an inclination in this ayah to let us know that my private moments with Allah are the dearest ones to Allah. They might be the most precious ones to Allah. Because the public moments, everybody else can appreciate, but the private ones are especially only and only for Allah. Only and only. What an encouragement for you and I to take some time where nobody can see. You're at home, you're making salah, maybe your wife can see you raising your hands. Nah, not good enough. Not good enough. You got to be somewhere, nobody's around. And you're just having a conversation with Allah. You're just having that conversation. It's your nida'an khafiyya. You heard your beautiful Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam call on Allah secretly. It's just between him and Allah. You know what another meaning of that is? Whatever he was going to ask for, nobody ever heard about it. He didn't tell people, I ask Allah so many times, I tell Allah so many times this dua. And no, it's a secret dua. It's a secret, it's nida'an khafiyya. So nobody knows about it. It's only Allah who knows about it. What's happened in the age of social media is we like to publish our pain. Right? So we want to make a meme about when you're asking Allah for relief and no one answers. They put a hashtag underneath, sabr. right? Like you. So we want to advertise our personal connection to Allah because it's something to promote in front of followers, right? Or even if you're not on social media, you have people that are making a dua and they're not getting the answer in time and they're talking to everybody about it. They're saying, I keep asking Allah, I don't know when it's going to come. I keep asking, where's the nida khafiyya? How is this an intimate conversation between the slave and the master, right? The beauty of that is being highlighted in just إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. Now look at his words. قَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي وَهَنَ الْعَظْمُ مِنِّي. He said, my Rabb, my bones, I'm going to translate as literally as I can. My bones have become so weak, they don't listen to me anymore. I'm going to add some words here in English so you understand the balagha of the Arabic. My bones have become so weak, they are no longer listening to me. Some of you guys play sports when you were younger, you played basketball or whatever else, and then you turned 40. And then you're in your brain, in your mind, you're about to do a crossover, but your bones say, no, you're not. That's not what's going to happen right now. Right? And it happened a lot quicker in your head. But the bones are starting to give away. But he's now describing my body is no longer complying. It's no longer cooperating with me. It's become so weak. My bones I can feel it. I can feel it within me, the weakness within me. Now Allah knows his weakness more than he knows. He could have said, Ya Allah, you know. But actually, and the first thing he's saying, it sounds like he's complaining. Ya Allah, my bones hurt. Arthritis. Ya Allah, my back hurts. I have a hard time sitting down. Ya Allah, when I walk, I have to lean over. My bones don't comply. My knee hurts. I can't go up the stairs. Ya Allah, my hands are always in pain. I can't grab anything. But he's turning to Allah and basically, look at the beauty of that. It's interesting. Another place in the Quran you find someone sharing their pain with Allah is Yaqub alayhi salam. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Right? Yaqub alayhi salam. And notice that in these ayat, he's going to say, يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ Yaqub. He's going to mention Yaqub alayhi salam later on. He sees a connection between him and Yaqub because what's the connection? Yaqub alayhi salam went through a lot of pain. He's also going through a lot of pain. رَبِّينِي وَهَنَ الْعَظْمُ مِنِّي. Then he says, وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. And what to speak of the bones, he literally says, my hair, it's as if a fire came and burnt my hair and it's turned into white ash. Basically he's saying all my hair's turned white. And he's comparing age with a fire that burns through and you only have white ash left. That's why ishti'al is used. So this is a really beautiful tashbih in this ayah, an analogy in this ayah. وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. Because of old age, my hair's all turned white. This is his way of saying, I don't have a lot of days left. Ya Allah, you know when I'm going, but it looks to me like I'm going. My body's kind of telling me it's time to go. They say in Arabic, شَيْبُكَ نَعِيك. Your graying or whitening hair is the alarm that it's time to go. Back in the day, they used to have an alarm when there's a war coming, or there's a horn that gets sounded and the whole village wakes up. That's the na'i, right? So they say when your hair's turning gray or turning white, then the horn has been sounded. It's time to go. Get ready. Like the troops have to march. So he tells Allah, وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. But then he says the most beautiful part of all of this. He says, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. I have never been hopeless or miserable or depressed or negative or pessimistic. All of these are the meanings of shaqi. I have never been any of those things when it comes to asking you for something, making dua to you. And this is really confusing. He spent his entire life making dua for something. Allah didn't answer it. And he's getting old. He's about to die. Allah still didn't answer it. And he's saying, Ya Allah, never once did I feel negative about making dua to you and you didn't answer. Never once have I felt depressed. Never once have I said, Ya Allah, Allah didn't answer my prayer. Now you have to ask yourself, we have to ask ourselves, what level of frustration do we easily get with Allah? Easily, when our dua isn't answered on our schedule. He's surrounded by frustration. He's surrounded by it. Never with Allah. No, and it's not like he's not frustrated. He is frustrated. He's frustrated with his physical weakness. He's frustrated that he doesn't see a solution. But never does that frustration turn towards Allah and he says, Ya Allah, I'm telling you this, not because I'm complaining to you, because any negative emotion I've ever felt, it never incorrectly directs towards you. That never happens. So, لَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. Having said that, I do have some anxieties from people. وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. And the people that are associated with me, the people that are going to take charge after I die, the people that are going to take control of the masjid, this community, the people that are going to stand up and give the khutbah after I'm gone, I am afraid of them. I'm afraid of them. إِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. I'm afraid of how much they're going to cause corruption. I'm afraid of how ignorant they are. I'm afraid of how arrogant they are. I'm afraid of how little they know, but they believe they know so much. I'm afraid of how they're going to cause division in this community. I'm afraid of their ulterior motives, their agendas. I'm afraid of their insincerity. I've seen it. I'm afraid of their ignorance, their arrogance. I'm afraid. What's going to happen? وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. And he says, Ya Allah, and by the way, the solution to that would have been me having a child, but he says, وَكَانَتْ إِمْرَأَتِي عَاقِرَةً. But my wife was unable to bear a child from even when she was young. Ya Allah, I'm not complaining, but I'm saying the reality is, you didn't give me the child, and you didn't give me any of these scrubs over here that could rise to the occasion, and that's the situation I'm dealing with. وَكَانَتْ إِمْرَأَتِي. So he says, look at what he said, and he said, I'm never going to be depressed. Now it looks like everybody around me is a loser, so they're not good enough for the job. I don't have a kid myself. What's the solution? Look at his, and we said he's never negative towards Allah. What does he tell Allah? He says, فَهَبْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا. Then give me the gift from yourself of someone who will take charge. You find a way, Ya Rabb. I don't know, but you're the giver of all gifts. You're the Wahhab, so give me a gift. The word gift is also really beautiful here. It's an indication that he feels after all these years of making dua, he still doesn't act like he deserves it. He still understands Allah doesn't owe me anything. If even now Allah gives me, that will be a gift, not because I deserved it. What's happened with us in dua? We make dua to Allah, and now all of a sudden, the answer to the dua is almost an expectation from Allah that if Allah doesn't deliver, He hasn't met my expectations. I did my part of the deal, where's his part of the deal? Wait, hold on. If this is your expectation, then it would not be a hiba min Allah. It wouldn't be a gift, because a gift is not expected. Unless you have some really crazy drama auntie, she expects gifts. But gifts are not expected. Gifts are an unexpected thing. They're not earned. It's an unearned thing. He says, Ya Allah, I'm not entitled to it. But if you can just give me the gift of someone who will take charge after me. يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. He will inherit me, and he will inherit from the family of Yaqub. Now notice, Yaqub was surrounded by sons who gave him grief. And Zakaria is surrounded by a qawm that is giving him grief. And he says, I need someone like a Yusuf who rises to the occasion. Where's my Yusuf? So he says, يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. How beautiful, you know? And so even though the time for khutbah is up, just one more small thing I want you to remember from this. What did he ask for in this child that Allah will give, or this new wali that Allah will give him? What did he ask for in him? He said, وَجْعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. This is isti'naf or i'tirad. وَرَبِّي اجْعَلْهُ رَضِيًّا. هذا هو ترتيب الكلام. ولكنه قال وَجْعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. Make him, my Rabb, please just make him radi. And radi means two things in Arabic. One thing it means, Ya Allah, make him someone you are pleased with. It doesn't matter if I see something in them or not, so long as you see their potential, that's good enough for me. Because sometimes Allah sees something in someone, we can't see it. So long as he's good by you, that's good enough for me. That's so long as they meet your expectations, because I have my own expectations, that's good enough. What's the other meaning of radi? It actually means, Ya Allah, make him someone, no matter what happens, they stay content with you. You're content with them, but they also stay content with you. Like he himself, all these years, no prayer answered, but he's content with Allah. Ya Allah, I need someone who can live in a frustrating situation, in difficult circumstances, but never do those circumstances impact their relationship with you. That doesn't happen. They remain radi with you. They remain content with you. That's the kind of next generation I need. That's the kind of wali I need. This beautiful, private, personal dua was recorded, and I believe one of the reasons this was recorded in the Quran is that this is the way we should be asking Allah for our next generations. This is what we should be asking Allah for our generations. Like, what are the qualities we want when we're gone from here? What qualities do we want our next generation to have? And if these are the qualities that they should have, it's not just going to happen on its own. We're going to have to develop a means, a system in the family, in the masjid, among friends. We're going to have to develop a system. We create that kind of influence among our young generation so they grow up to be radi. They're growing up to be pleased with Allah and Allah is pleased with them. Like that's the benchmark of, okay, now I can die in peace. Now I can die in peace, you know? So this is something I want you to recite on your own. Even memorize these opening ayat. They're very easy, very short ayat. كاف ها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال ربي إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرة فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله ربي رضيا. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.